Oblivion. Hi guys. This is gonna be a much more, I guess, personal review than it's normally been. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. It's been a while since I last uploaded a video. I'm terribly sorry about that. It's just stuff has happened, and I'll probably go into that with another video. But yeah, so the topic movie we're going to be today is we're going to be doing an Oblivion analysis. Now, when Oblivion came out, people did not know what to think about it. It was a much more different Tom Cruise movie by still being the same normal Tom Cruise stick. So it was a bit of a different film. It was a sci-fi movie, but with a different twist. So today I want to talk about Oblivion and kind of explain as best as I can so you guys can have a much more enjoyable experience with this film. And if you've not seen Oblivion, stay away from this review because this review is going to contain thousands and thousands of spoilers for Oblivion. I'm going to give away the twist, all that stuff. I'm just going to talk about the kind of sequences of this film and try to kind of give you a personal information of Oblivion when I saw it. So when Oblivion came out in the year 2013 and I saw it, I didn't know if I liked it or if I did not like it. It was a kind of a film that I was like, okay, this is fine, but I'm not sure if I really get the purpose of this film being, okay, good and fine. But Oblivion was a film, once we bought it on Blu-ray, I was like, okay, this is actually not bad. And now Oblivion is one of my favorite Tom Cruise movies and one of my favorite sci-fi films of all time. Why, you ask? I can give you some simple answers. Number one, I'm going to give you some simple points and try to give you as much as I can. Number one, the story. The story of Oblivion is very simple, but it's also very convoluted. The people called scavs, which is apparently an alien race, blew up our moon, so now this is in the year 2077. So now Tom Cruise and his sidekick are meant to get some droids before they go up into the upside down pyramid. But what we do not know, that is the main story, kind of what you get. But what we do not know is that the scavs aren't aliens. They're actually people surviving. The good people, the Texas lady that actually calls, is actually a robot up into the space. The Tom Cruise and his partner, there's actually thousands and thousands of clones made. The war, everything. It's such a brilliant idea. We learn that Tom Cruise has a wife later on. And the ending, the kid, the story comes between such a simple script and such a simple storyline to being this small little thing that doesn't give you an inch of an ounce. It doesn't give you anything until maybe the second act, close to an hour and a half of the film, but then it keeps giving you answers. It keeps giving you answers. It just gives you answers, and it keeps pushing the stuff towards you, and you're like, okay, I have an answer now to that question, but I don't have an answer to that question. Or I have an answer to this question, but I don't really have an answer to this question. Oblivion doesn't give you an answer until it wants you to. The director beautifully places its sequences in its right order. And once you have this knowledge of the clones and the scavs aren't humans, it makes plenty of sense. You don't need tons of stuff explaining to you, feeding down your throat like Kool-Aid. You actually have to think. This director and Tom Cruise didn't make the audience feel stupid. It makes the audience feel like intelligent people that can think for themselves. And that's what a movie should make you feel like. Oblivion reminded me a lot of Inception back in 2011. People are like, this is too confusing. I don't get it. Critics say Oblivion was too confusing. But when they say movies are too simple and no, that plot twist was convoluted or I saw that coming from a mile away. But when they saw Oblivion, they were like, it was too confusing. Make up your mind. People that did not like Oblivion should not have been called critics. Critics didn't love Oblivion. But now people do. People didn't love Inception. But now they think it's one of the best films ever made. Why am I putting these two movies to group together? They're both movies that are science fiction films for mature audience. Inception is a convoluted story about entering dreams, entering reality, entering people. But it's a sci-fi film with some action scenes, but you have to think really hard. Not just when you see the movie once, and not just after the movie, but why during the movie. You have to really think about and listen to every little piece of dialogue to get one Inception story. That's kind of like Oblivion. It's a sci-fi movie with some fun action and a lot of action at the end, and with Tom Cruise, a famous actor, and some good special effects. But it's a movie that allows you to, like Inception, pay close attention to every single dialogue. While you're watching a film, you should not be talking. You should not be looking at your phone. If you're going to watch a movie, you should be fully engaged in the film. But some people just look at films at backward noses. At home, if you want to make a couple dialogue, fine. But if people say at the theater, that's a different story. If people want to talk at their own home, that's okay. But people that, when they saw this movie in the cinema, when audiences saw Inception at the cinema and critics saw Inception, it was confusing. I didn't get it. In the cinema, you're supposed to be paying attention. In the cinema, when people saw Inception, they're like, okay, this is too confusing. When people saw Oblivion in the cinema, they're like, this is too confusing. Focus, and you're supposed to be paying attention while you're in the movie theater. When I'm at home and I watch a movie, I occasionally talk. If one of my family makes a remark, I'm like, okay. They're like, you should review this. I'm like, okay, that's a good point. But mostly we're listening and paying attention. Why? Because you're supposed to be paying attention to the art form. The art form. The story is so confusing to people because when they first saw it, they didn't pay attention. But now that they can digest this film one by one, I would suggest, when Oblivion came out, I suggest you would see it maybe once or twice in the theater. Wait out, see if you like it, and if you like it, buy it. And then watch it again and again and again and again until you get the story and you appreciate what the director and Cruise was doing. The story is brilliantly structured to be a simple and smart story that's not convoluted. It is. You have to really pay attention, especially that ending kind of makes no sense. But you have to, when you pay attention and you piece all together and you make, well, I figured out a puzzle. I made this object work, and I have what I need to piece the puzzles together and pieces to pieces. That's what this Oblivion is. It's a puzzle piece. The pieces are scrambled. When you do a puzzle, what happens? The pieces are scrambled all over the table. Yes? So you have to kind of pick and choose the pieces. Oblivion gives you 0 pieces for half its act. Really. The beginning, 20 minutes, it gives you 0. But then it gives you a piece with Cruise explaining a little bit at the beginning. Then it gives you another piece. Then it gives you another piece. Then it gives you 0 pieces until close to the end. You're getting all these pieces. You're getting all these answers. And it's like, whoa, slow down. But when you really piece together the pieces and you put together a puzzle, it's a perfect puzzle. Everything makes sense. But then you get to that ending of the story. The final couple of shots. The final couple of frames. When Tom Cruise gets blown up at the end, you see Tom Cruise's clone, 54. From 49, from the sand fight scene, which we'll get to. And you see that she has a child, the wife. And you're like, okay, I'm missing 3 pieces. I'm still missing those 3 pieces. I have everything put together but those 3 pieces. Why? Because I need to watch the film more. Every scene I need to examine. Maybe some dialogue I might have missed. Maybe some focusing. When you watch Oblivion, it is a fun sci-fi movie, but it's not your typical sci-fi movie where everything just comes near you. There's like a full 40 minutes of exposition. The director knew what the audience needs, and the audience is smart. The audience isn't some stupid person that can just be feeded up this so much knowledge, and it's like, okay, I get it now. I'm getting the pieces, but you're still missing the 3 pieces. I know some people, like my dad, he has all the pieces. Those 3 pieces, he's like, okay, can go there, can go there, can go there. He has those pieces together. I have every piece but those 3. The story of Oblivion is a puzzle piece. It's a puzzle. You have to really gun together and put the puzzle. It gave you a couple of pieces in the beginning. Okay, you have your simple puzzle pieces at the beginning. Then you get to maybe having 0 puzzle pieces, but then you're getting handed the puzzle. You know exactly what the puzzle pieces are, and you know exactly what to do with them. You have a puzzle piece. Use the puzzle piece with such knowledge, and the puzzle piece that's being over in the corner, have that in your mind. And the puzzle piece, if you're getting confused and you're like, I get the film, but that ending, I'm missing. Maybe you missed a dialogue scene. Maybe I miss a piece, a fraction. If you one little word could give me my 3 puzzle pieces that I'm missing at the end. It could give me that. Maybe she was pregnant. Maybe I didn't hear that big scene because it wants you to pay attention. The number 1, what makes Oblivion a fantastic sci-fi film is the story. Number 2, the effects. The effects in a sci-fi movie or in a big blockbuster film is the best part and what you really need to get right. But what Oblivion does is it goes, instead of using 2013 when this film was made, green screen, it went to old films using a projector that's projecting off the screen. So what we're seeing as the audience, your actors are seeing. This is what George Lucas really needed to commit in the prequels. Using background. Maybe Harrison Ford would love it, but they use the green screen or a blue screen. That's what I feel like. If you're going to use CGI, use it like this. I'm not saying every CGI like in the Marvel movies. Would this production work? For some scenes, yes, but for creatures, no. The background of this film is immensely productive off a screen. How does this help this film? The actors can generally act what's happening. Like when a ship massively just blows up and the actors are acting. They're not just acting because the director's saying, okay, something exploded, now act like how you. No, they're physically seeing it. Why? Because it was a brilliant way to do its effects. So much of this film is not super effect heavy. There's a lot of practical stuff in this film. It's beautifully executed into being, okay, I get that scene. That was a really good effects scene. That was really good audience scene. It's putting you into the moment, and it's like, the actors are like, I can see that. The audience is praising, like, oh, that's such a cool effect. But with most movies, the audience is like, that's amazing. But with the actors are like, I'm just looking at a screen. What's supposed to be happening? It makes the performance not genuine, like if you're using a proper production, like they did in Oblivion. They give a much more genuine performance, and they give a performance that's like, okay, I'm in the film, I'm in the moment. Why were the actors in a moment and we're not doing a green screen? They can see, and they can feel, and they can touch. With the projector, they can see it. They can't really touch it. They can't really feel it. But they can see it. They can react. They can be whatever they need to be. In the chase scene towards the climax of the film with the drones and Tom Cruise and his wife, the scene that's going is a projection. They can see the drones in the background. They can see the flying stuff. They can see the waterfall. Everything of this film is done amazingly by its effects. One of the reasons why Oblivion is so good is because of its effects, and it's because of its genre building. This movie builds on its effects in its one. Number 3, the characters. You care about the characters. Tom Cruise is apparently fantastic in everything he's in, and he is. He's great as Ethan Hunt. He's great as Jack Reacher. He's great as Maverick. But here as Jack, again in this film, I don't see Tom Cruise. I don't. I see the person he's betraying. In Ethan Hunt, I see Ethan Hunt. Tom Cruise's performances are so good, he seeps into that character. You don't be like, okay, that is Tom Cruise, that's what Tom Cruise would do. No, he's like, what would this character do? He's so beautifully, mind-blowingly genius, and you care about him. When he dies at the end, it's nothing amazing. It's not a tear-jerking scene, but it's pretty depressing, and you would feel what his wife would feel at that moment. When you realize he's had a wife and he's been gone for her for 60 years, you're like, okay, this is really touching. I can relate. See, any people, even if you're not married, because I'm not, you can be like, okay, I can relate to that because I can relate to that even though I'm not married. Why? Because you can feel if you've been away from your parents. You're always going to have parents. If you're away from your mom or your dad for 60 years, you can be like, okay, I can put my parents in that position, or my brother or my sisters, or even my boyfriend or girlfriend in that position, and I can feel what Cruz is feeling in this moment. Same with the wife diamond. You can feel what she's been feeling to be away from her husband for over 60 years, and to get a clone of Cruz, but has kind of that same relation. So when she dies at the end of when she gets shot, she doesn't die. When she gets shot, you can feel okay. But when she's better, and when Cruz has to sacrifice his life for her to make her and the child have a better life, you can relate to that. You can relate to the relationship. You can relate to what's happening in front of you. Why? Because it's relatable. It's a good focus, and it's like, I can relate to that because I'm human. I can relate to that because that's a good scene. I can relate to that because progress is everything in its dynamical form. Even the girl that Tom Cruise goes with, you can relate to her. The death of her, seeing her again. Morgan Freeman, the scout. You can always relate on somebody. Why? Because they have a purpose. You care about these characters. I'm sick of sci-fi movies or Disney movies in general thinking that you want to care about your characters, but you can't. Why? Because it's terrible filmmaking. Filmmakers out there, if I can relate to any of your characters, something has been done wrong. A character is the best part of your film that I must relate to. I must attach on and say, if some part, I can relate to that in some way. Why? Because it's a portent of a purpose of a character that can be like, I can relate to that. That's something I can relate to. I'm gonna focus on that. That's great. What can I relate to for Cruz? His lifestyle, not having a memory, not knowing the truth, being away from your loved one for 60 years. Morgan Freeman, same thing. Your life has been taken away. The wife, being away from your husband, kind of drifting away, losing your crew. The girl dying and being untrusted. You can relate to these characters in this film. You can relate these characters in all this film. Why? Because Oblivion is not just your average popcorn beat 'em up, going through the motions, 2 hours. Okay, I thought of that. That was a fun film. That was just a film. Every time I watch Oblivion, I'm not just like, that was a film. It was just a film. Nothing else, just a movie. When I watch Oblivion, I care about these characters. I attach to these characters. Every time I hear these moments, I attach to them. Filmmakers out there, if I can't attach to characters, if your audience can't attach to your characters, at least in one way, this needs to be one, doesn't need to be all the way, but just one, just a fragment of something, your film will fail. Your film will fail. But Oblivion does not fail. Why? Because I can relate to the characters in one way. Not just in Cruz, not just in Morgan, not just the wife, but everyone in this film I can relate to in one way. One way. If your characters I can't even relate to, your audience can't relate to, you're doing something wrong, filmmakers. You're doing something wrong. Let's use an example. George Lucas, I cared about his characters in Star Wars. I cared about Luke. I cared about Yoda. I could relate to one of them. But then when he made the prequels, I can relate to anyone. Besides Anakin leaving his mom, you can relate to that just a little bit. There's a little bit of hints. Episode 2. You might hate George Lucas, and sometimes his characters I can't relate to, but he still has characters you can relate to. Steven Spielberg. Let's look at one of his best films, Jaws. I can relate to each one of those main 3 guys in one way. At least a fragment of a second. If I can relate to your characters, or I can find something that I can attach to, or I don't even like your characters. In Michael Bay's Transformers, I can't lie to Shia LaBeouf's character. I can't. I really can't. I just can't. I've never been in a relationship. I've never felt something for a girl, so I don't know what to do. I can't relate to this character. But in Oblivion, you can relate to all these characters. All of these characters. When you watch this film, you're not thinking, oh my goodness, I can't relate to any of these people. You're thinking, I can relate to all of these people. You look at Oblivion, you're like, I can relate to that guy. I like her. I like her. I can relate to this precise and specific moment of this film. I can relate to this. Number 3, they made some good characters. Number 4, why Oblivion is such a fantastic film. It's a beautifully directed. The director of Oblivion, the shots, the stunning camera angles of this film just breathe and seep life in this film. When I'm watching Oblivion, I'm examining how the director moves his camera. In that motorcycle scene, it's a brief scene, but it's beautifully camera-eyed. In the action scenes, in the final action scene, it's all camera-ized. In the first shot of this film, in the last shot of this film, in this entire film, I'm looking at the director and saying, you know how to frame a shot. Every scene looks fantastic. Every scene is not wasted. Every frame, every fragment of a second, you can be like, there was some care put into that frame, and you can see it 100% in Oblivion. You can see that the director was not just like, I don't want to make a good film, I just want to make a film because I have Tom Cruise in it, people will pay. He thought of this film. Directors, if you don't think about your audience, you don't think about a film, I'm just going to be laid back, and I'm just going to be like, this is bad. When I look at a film, I look at its direction. And there's not one shot in Oblivion I'm like, that could have been done better. It could have been edited better. Every shot is pristine condition. Why? Because obviously the director cares about its audience. Just like Tom Cruise, he wants an audience. Tom Cruise wants his audience to have as good as time as can. The director wants his audience to see and feel. In the action scenes, it's not this dumb shaky cam. It's perfectly balanced and shot. The lighting in this film is fantastic. Number 5, next thing why makes this Oblivion so fantastic. The action scenes are mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. What makes a mind-blowing action scene? Every action scene in Oblivion, it can just be a little fight scene. That fight scene between Cruise and the clone Cruise is probably one of the most mind-blowing. When I first saw that action scene, I'm like, how did they pull it off? How did they pull it off? Because it's real and it's there. The action scenes are taken with care. The final action scene might be an oblivious mess of an action scene. It might just be collided. It might just be like, oh, this is a terrible action scene, but not in Oblivion. You're like, that's a good action scene. That's a good moment, because the action is pristine. The last scene of what makes Oblivion fantastic is the twist. The twist is mind-blowing. When I first saw Oblivion, I was like, the twist blew my mind, and when you watch it again, it will make sense. Put those puzzle pieces together, the twist will make sense. Clones, aliens, it all makes sense because the film makes it make sense. Of course, I'm going to give Oblivion an A+. It deserves it. If you have not seen Oblivion, then why are you watching this review? Let me guys know what you guys thought of Oblivion down in the comment section below. Let me guys know what you thought about this review. Give it a like, guys, if you guys like. If you guys want to see more analysis, comment down below. Let me know. And as always, guys, I'll see you all in the next one. Ta-ta.